Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Welcome to episode 7,897. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, a great friend of the show. But before I do that, we have a quote for this episode. A successful person finds the right place for himself, but a successful leader finds the right place for others. John Maxwell, our guest today, shared this quote recently, um, has shared that keynote, that leader, that author, that pundit, that speaker, that value creator with their community, our community, many people. They exemplify that quote. They're a friend of the Culture Matters podcast, family to us, a leader on the show. If you don't know them on the show, you clearly don't like me or the show. The real Brian Hess is back. And I'm excited to pick your brain, brother, on this quote and some of the exciting things that we need to be thinking about in 24,
Always good to be here,
2029.
man. And definitely good to be back and excited to unpack that quote because I think it's something that we all need to live by far more. And it's probably missing in the world. We have the tendency in today's world to be a lot more the first sentence than the second sentence. At least society is, trying to find the right place for themselves. When in reality, the more that we find the right place for others, the more we create the right place for ourselves.
How important do you think it is for the CEO of the organization to understand the distinction between their place and other people's place?
I mean, I think it's everything, right? When you see an organization that has a lot of harmony, a lot of things that are pointed in the right direction. And when I say that, understand that there is no organization that has complete harmony. There's always challenge and adversity. And, I think that people hear, leaders or people like this, having conversations like this, saying harmony in an organization, and they think that's all it is. It's never that. Even if you're stagnant, not growing, nothing really significant is happening. There's still challenge and adversity. But, when you see an organization that from the outside in looks like it has a high level of harmony, a high level of culture, high level of teamwork, it is because the leader or leaders are very good at placing people in the seats that complement the others in the organization. And, for me, I've been blessed with the talent, the God-given talent, I believe, to be able to network and talk to people. Not that that's not a sharpened skill, but in general, since I was 5 years old, 4 years old, my parents would tell you stories about, me talking to people, talking to older people in retail stores when my parents were shopping. And so for me, I have such an interest in people that, inquiring about them, listening to what they've got going on in their lives, listening to what's important to them. One of my natural talents, or one of my best talents, I would say, is, finding the right seat for the right people. And most importantly, identifying the right people that need to be part of our organization,
Mm.
and then doing whatever it takes to get them in it, and figuring out what seat they can fill in order to make the organization more successful. And I think so from a CEO standpoint, I can't think of, something more important than having the right people in the right seats. Everything else in business kind of comes after that, because without people, we have nothing. And without the right people in the right seats, pushing the rock up the hill multiplies the weight of the rock and reduces the strength of the people.
What are people looking for in 24, 5, 6 as far as employment versus 2015, 16, 17?
Well, let me start by saying what they're looking for, and then I'll follow it up with why I think it has evolved. If we think about what people are looking for today. It's far less about the short-term money that they can make. It's far less about, all the benefits and all the things that people have cared about. Not that people don't care about money and not that they don't care about benefits, but they're seeking fulfillment, belonging, a place that has upward mobility and growth, a place that they can see themselves being at for longer than 6 months to a year. And if you look at the statistics of turnover in any position in our country, it's multiplying year over year, right? The number of people that are staying in the same positions or in the same companies is going down year over year consistently. And the reason that I think it's happening, or the reason that I've been told by people when I ask them what it is that they're looking for and what drove them to look for it, is, there's visibility into companies now, at least the best companies out there from a cultural perspective. There's visibility into those via YouTube, via social media, content creation. All of these things are putting on display arguably the best of every company that's out there, right? They're trying to show the best side of who they are and what it is that highlights their companies. I was just listening to clip after clip after clip last night from a buddy's company of people. It's an insurance company. And so they're talking about how much their lives have changed, how much money they've made, how much, all the positives of the company are on display on social media. And so if somebody's upset in their current job, or they're not fulfilled, or they're working for a leader that they don't really feel connected to or emotionally connected to, or they don't feel like the mission of the company aligns with who they are, they have 17 examples every time they scroll through social media or every time they log in somewhere online to see something better than what they have. And we have, used that to our advantage, right? We have shown what's happening in our company, how we like to have fun, how we like to, take people to events and retreats, and how we pour into them from a training standpoint. And, that matters, man, because it gets the attention of the best people out there, the people that want to get better, the people that want to be part of something bigger than themselves, the people that care about culture, the people that want to work at a place where they feel like they can belong. They're scrolling for that every day. They're looking for that day after day after day. And the joy of 2024 is we can find anything that we're looking for. We have arrived in the information age, and we have access to any piece of information that we want. And so the evolution of technology, social media, video, documentation of what's happening inside of companies, it's pushing people away from the bad companies, and it's pushing people to the ones that actually care, that want to invest in their people, that are doing the right things. And, I think that's going to exponentially grow as more companies, because I know a lot of great companies still today that don't share content yet, right? That aren't at that level of putting their great culture, their great leadership on display yet. And so as that happens, the companies that don't do it or can't do it because they actually don't have great leadership or they don't have a great culture, those are going to eventually disappear.
If it's the attention to social, let's say the attention to social is a consequence of the lack of buy-in of the person to whatever organization they're with. So now I see the grass is greener on the other side. What are some of the things the organizations can do to not lose that buy-in, so that it feels more so it seems more appealing of whatever it is I'm seeing? So let's say the pull's there no matter what. We're this addiction to look at our phones, right? Let's say that's a constant. The smart companies that are sharing who they are online are going to have a higher probability to take great talent from companies that talent's no longer bought into, right? So what are some of the things that those companies can do to keep that buy-in outside of, clearly you've articulated part of it is sharing who they are to the world, but what are some things?
Yeah, I think they've got to get comfortable sharing their vision far and wide with frequency and consistency. It's, what is your company all about? Because it's not just the employee that cares about that, it's the customer now, right? So the customers out there that are shopping for whatever services it may be, the less transparent a company is in today's marketplace, the lower the trust is for that company automatically. I use this example all the time. It used to matter where your office address was. That was kind of a checkbox for people looking, right? If you had the right address, if you were leasing the right physical location, people trusted you. And now it's more about your social media presence, your website, and the content that you share online. And there's a lot of leaders. I just spent a week at a pavement expo, PaveX, and there's still a lot of leaders in our industry that, by the way, are great leaders. They're really sharp people. If they bought into what we're talking about here in any capacity, and it doesn't have to be, video content is by far the best, but it could be writing a blog. It could be doing a podcast. It could be, any form of pushing out media. Because what happens, and I didn't realize this when I was doing it, 667 episodes in now. When I started my podcast, I didn't realize that I was coaching my team every morning. And so I was reinforcing what the vision of the company is, where we're going, why we're doing it, what standards we want people to live by, what we want them to represent as a company. And so I think that, every day people have the opportunity to buy in further or remove themselves from the culture a little bit, right? Get a little bit further away, get a little bit closer to walking out the door. And not only is it bad to have people walk out the door, but imagine the process as a business owner. If you're not finding the right, going back to the quote, if you're not finding the right place for the people on your team, because what you hire them for may not be their final destination in the company. If you're not doing that, imagine the lack of productivity that happens along the way from the moment that they start thinking, should I leave here, until the day that they actually leave. How much energy, effort, customer focus is being sucked out of your company every day from those people that don't know if they belong. And, that's tragic, right? Because if you just for business owners out there, go to the balance sheet and look at your payroll number. And then imagine that number getting 50% of the results that it should, or less, because a large percentage of the people aren't bought in. So they're doing the bare minimum. They don't really care about the customer because they don't care about the company. Maybe they care about people, so they'll try to do their best, when it comes to things. But if they don't believe in the mission of the company, I hear this, by the way, companies that people don't believe in, they say, well, what am I supposed to do? I just work here. And so if you have that culture of, I just work here, man, I can't imagine what your customers are getting treated like if they don't believe in the vision. And so I think it's an irresponsible position to take as a business owner in 2024 to not, with great consistency and frequency, be sharing your own personal vision, the vision of your company, the values and principles that you live by. And what I have found as a benefit to that, not just from an employee standpoint, but we've attracted relationships with people outside of our organization that believe what we believe, that have similar values, that, believe in the same things. And it excites them to see a company that operates that way. And so, the cliche phrase is like, find your tribe, but like that happens by sharing. And it used to happen at, networking events or dinners, and it still happens there, but not at the same level because, frankly, there's other ways to do it that are far more effective and far more far reaching than what you could do at a at any trade show or any, for me, trade shows are an opportunity to see the people that I communicate with online every day. It's to spend time in person with the people who I've built digital relationships with and take them into real life. And so, when you execute this properly, you've got a list of people that are interested in your mission, that are interested in being part of it in some way, shape, or form. Even other business owners, they want to find a way to network, connect. I had somebody the other day that works in New York that tagged me in a LinkedIn post of somebody who's a very high level customer experience person that's looking for a career. Why did they refer me? Why did they tag? They could have tagged anybody. It's because I show up so frequently and I've had a conversation with this guy. We believe a lot of the same things. He's going to be a new father, right? And so he's trying to figure it out. So he uses me as a resource for that. All of these things matter to people because at the end of the day, we don't hire employees. We hire the whole person. And so when people are looking to have their whole person be comfortable somewhere, those are all the things that they're evaluating when they're choosing where they're going to go or maybe where they're going to stay.
Mm. Hey, what do you think of this thought there's I think there could be a huge opportunity for leadership in this, I guess, what would you call it? Evolution of business towards social. Because when you said that it used to be the office address and now it's the social handle. Well, it's interesting because I wrote this down. Marketing to get a relationship can have an inverse relationship with building the skill set of active listening. And this is why I say can, because right now you and me are talking at our listeners. So essentially, that's very different than if we were in the room with a potential client and we had to sell, because it's like a conversation. The listener could talk with us. There's a give and take. It's like I have to listen, I have to ask questions. So I think I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Like this, and I think we have there's a lot of people that have disdain for social platforms that I've come across that are higher up because they're looking at some of the what would you call it? Let's say lacking depth.
Yep.
Like there's not much underneath the hood. So where I'm going with that is I think there's a renaissance for leadership, because if I'm not even aware that this is what is the case, that I'm growing through like putting myself online, for example, I may not have as much experience developing the skill sets of the past generation where it was face to face, human to human, where I couldn't just have like my podcast and people connect with me. Like I think it's changing the very fabric of how people are communicating, growing businesses. And I think there's a lot of the cultures that are not what they appear to be because they're lopsidedly talking and not able to listen because they haven't learned how to listen because they've grown through the platforms. That's their advantage, and it creates a disadvantage. Whereas the older companies, let's say, that aren't on the platforms, they're looking at them and saying, oh, that's a bunch of BS, when they're not marketing, and they might have a quality product, a quality service, and an atmosphere of, let's say, inclusivity and collaboration and really a good culture, but nobody knows about them. So they're not getting to the next level, and they're not interested in listening to what you or me have to say, because they just think that we're one of these other talkers, that there isn't something underneath the hood. And there are those people. And I'm thinking, I think there are those people because you can condition yourself to lose some of those skill sets, those human to human skill sets, if I'm only doing these, right? Let's, if I'm doing too much marketing and not enough leadership is what I don't know. I'm curious what your thought. I've been trying to
Yeah.
work this out for a while. What's the distinction between the false company that's just marketing with nothing underneath the hood, and then the company that is marketing, it looks great to the iPhone, and the business is really what it appears to be, right? What are the distinctions?
Yeah, and I think it's because people haven't spent the time to figure out how to validate some of this, because the address does still matter. You cannot just take a checkbox of what looks good online and assume that person knows what they're talking about, that business is actually successful. You can't just take it at surface level. And so what I've found to be most effective is to take what I just said, which is, taking that digital relationship and taking it offline. One of the things that is a checkbox for me is, and we do this with contractors, it's like, yeah, they look amazing online. What do they look like? What does their yard look like? How much equipment do they have? How old is that equipment? How is it kept? From Google Street View, from an aerial view, or we go to their office, because at the end of the day, I think, the world out there is taking, this is the problem, is that the consumer is surface level. They're not actually looking for the depth that has always mattered and will always matter. But we're in this age of consumption without validation. It's just like, we're just going to consume this stuff, and then we're going to bitch and moan that it didn't work out the way that we wanted to, when in all reality, we are the problem, because we're not taking the time to dig into the employee long enough to figure out what they're actually good at and not good at, to figure out what they actually liked and didn't like about their last stop, what the customer is actually looking for in a company, or what I'm looking for in that company as a customer. And is this place matching the values and what I'm looking for? It's one of the questions that we ask all the time of our clients, is like, what are the main priorities that are going to drive your decision making? What is it? Is it relationship? Because we're a relationship company. We don't desire to have transactional relationships, although we end up with some. We don't desire to have those. And those that we would define on a whiteboard as our best customers are the ones that we've, to your point, gotten below the surface with. We've got some kind of relationship. We've done something well for them. They've done something well for us. And so I think the world is living in this evolution of technology, which is virtually, in what we're talking about, it's the last decade and a half, and really the last, 5 to 10 years is when it's really accelerated and become part of the fabric of people's everyday lives. They're not taking the time to figure out what that means to them. They're just a consumer. I see people every day validating strangers on social media. I saw someone yesterday put this one up. I've got a business that doesn't have enough Google reviews. If you guys could go out and write me a Google review about my company, it would really help me. It's like, that's not how it works, bud, because now you just have a bunch of fraudulent reviews of your family and friends that haven't experienced your company at all. Now it's totally different. If you want your employee to write you a review and they've had a good experience there, I'm okay with that, right? But like, you can't have your followers who don't know, frankly, anything about you. Most of them, right? They don't know how you treat your customers. They don't know how you treat your dog. But they're going to go write you a positive review, which skews everything about the world around us. And so we've got to be careful to, those things
That's a
matter,
great point.
but they can't be the only thing that we measure. And so, it's like references on a resume. I've always thought it was a joke. It's like, who do you think they're going to give you? The people that don't like them? And so we live in this world
Mm.
of constant validation of people. And I lived in it for a while, and I was wrong about a lot of people that I validated. And so, that I am far more careful with compliments these days. I'm far more removed from the conversations that I used to be part of, because I realize how dangerous it is. I realize the danger of loaning my reputation to somebody else by validating them. It's not good. It's not good. And when you get to that point of realizing that in life, like, even reviews are permanent, right? They are there. People take them, use them for all kinds of things. Recommendations on LinkedIn, right? Like, just all of it. We're living through the evolution of all of this.
I think it's your quote, right? Or the quote that you posted of John Maxwell. A successful person finds the right place for himself, but a successful leader finds the right place for others. Um, the beginning part of that, a successful person finds the right place for himself. That makes me think of the person that maybe they're not even trying to do this with a evil intention. Ask all their fans for the review, or right, even though they haven't ever used the product, they're trying to get success. They're right. A successful person finds the right place for himself. So they're that like, hey, I need help. So the review is based on a partial truth, which in my view of it, it is the person, their fan, or maybe their relationship, they believe in them, but they haven't yet used the product. So the review is more of like a personal testimony. It's not really a review of the product or the service because they haven't used it. It's just a partial truth. It's I believe in this person. So it doesn't really fit in that category. So this is where I'm going with it. The other part of that quote is, but a successful leader finds the right place for others. I think when you include others and you're thinking just outside of the egocentricity of yourself, that's where values comes in. That's the beginning of culture. And so, for example, maybe the leader that asked their team, hey, what are the ethics around me asking the fans for these reviews? And maybe the squeaky wheel in the corner that nobody likes at the company because they always say just how it is. And maybe they're not really kind about how they say it. It's like, no, that's lying. We don't lie to our customers. Right? We don't get reviews that are half true. And it's like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. I'm just trying to be successful. I'm just
Right.
I'm just stressed out that I haven't made payroll. I'm just stressed out that I have investors that want their dividends. I'm just stressed out because I need to meet the next quarterly report. My job is on the line. I've got to perform. So I'm just curious what you like. This quote is so powerful because I think that the beginning part is about power, and I think the second part is love. Like, power. What can I get? Love. How can we like how can we get together? It's so that it's that binary of like the individual on an island himself, and then the individual stewarding, shepherding the group, the collective. Like, so everybody rises up. And even just your example, that difference between asking for a review from fans that haven't used the service versus asking customers, hey, what do you actually think about what we've done? Those are night and day.
Yeah, asking customers that haven't chosen you is better than asking people that haven't ever used you, because people might think highly of you. They just didn't choose you for some other reason. But and by the way, I agree with you. I don't think that people are evil in any way in their intentions, right? Like, I don't think that people say, like, I'm going to go, jockey the system here. And,
Well, maybe a very small percentage.
but I'm just saying, I don't think that's their like top of mind thought.
Yeah.
Their top of mind thought is, I need to be validated by this system that exists in society. And so how can I do that? It's just, it's an interesting dynamic that we're frankly living through. And I don't think that most people pay attention enough to realize the difference.
Hmm. So that's where I believe that the leadership, to your quote here, is gonna find itself a new renaissance. And I think that like you're one of the people that I would recommend our audience to follow as it relates to leadership, as it relates to actual company that is doing the best it can to be who it appears to be online. And I think is a great example of the synthesis of the marketing and the actual happenings of the people and that integration. Right? That, as you said earlier, the perfect harmony might be an illusion, but I think that integration, that synthesis is so important. So
I,
so and yeah, what are
I
your thoughts?
think from the harmony perspective, I beg this offer all the time. Like I love for people to stop by our office and meet the team, right? Like I may not be available to speak to when they stop by, but like come in, see what it is, because there's far too many people online that are trying to tell you what to do, how to do it, who they are, etc. That, to use an extreme case, they're still working out of their mother's basement. And and they're advising people on what to do. And it's dangerous. We're living in a place where, somebody takes a photograph in front of an expensive car and people think that's validation of success. And it's not. And it's why we're so forward about our values and who we are and what we do and what
Mm,
our challenges are, and how hard it is to create success, how hard it is to operate with the number of people that we have on staff, the different businesses that we have, the retreats that we do. Like that stuff is not easy, but if you can get close to real life, like what was the quote? I mean, I'm gonna paraphrase it here because I can't remember, but it's like, if you can't touch it, you can't create it. Like if you can't see it, you can't
mm,
create it. And so, for kids, just imagine kids growing up right now. They think they see what success actually is from Instagram. And unfortunately, most of it is bullshit. It's a bunch of people telling you that if you don't do X, if you're not making Y, then you're a loser. They're saying that without saying it, but they're
yeah.
saying it nonetheless. And so people are starting to think that they're doing it wrong when in all reality they're doing it right. And so, you need that leader, going back to the quote, it's like you need the leaders that are going to find the right seat for you, that are going to find the place for you. They're actively looking to find places for others that
Mm,
are the right places. Because if I didn't have those leaders that put me in the right seat, where would I be? I'd be doing something I'm not gifted at. And so, the successful person finds the right place for himself, but the successful leader is going to find the right place for others. And others is you. And
damn. Sorry.
others is you. It's you listening. It's you, consuming this content. It's like you got to find that person that's going to help you find that place. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of people, and your true friends are going to tell you like, hey, you're not very good at that. You should go do this because that's where your gift lies, right? And social media is going to tell you that what's the latest. You should sell Amazon stores, or you should become a digital marketer and just charge people 10 grand a month. And they give you all this, to your point, this surface level nonsense of like what it takes to build a business, and they don't tell you that regardless of how hard you try, 1% of the people is still 1% of the people that create a level of income that all these people are selling you that you can have.
Mm,
1%, 1 out of 100. So you better be willing to outwork the other 99. You better be willing to outread the other 99, out educate the other 99, out hustle the other 99, outlast the other 99. Because if you want to be part of the 1%, you got to be willing to do what 99% of the people aren't willing to do. And it's hard, and it's depressing, and it's difficult. It will bring you to your knees. It will make you cry. It will cause massive adversity in your life. It will give you debilitating moments, right? With all of that said, it's absolutely worth it. But that's not sold online because it's not sexy. People click on how to lose 100 pounds in 30 days. They don't click on, they click on how to get rich quick, not how to get rich for sure. Because how to get rich for sure is a very long process most people aren't willing to wait through.
Yeah, I'm on the really slow wealth plan. I mean,
The real ones, all the real ones are, dude.
yeah, we overestimate what could be done in a year and we underestimate what could be done in 10 years. I like that quote. It's like, it's a commitment. I want to reiterate this because I'm trying to think out loud on this one. And I really want your thoughts on it. That the reason we have a call to leadership, and I think it's going to be small business is really going to have a tremendous amount of pressure the next 10 years as we integrate with social platforms more and more and more, and more businesses are built on social platforms. That because we have the opportunity to market to people we never talk to, we have the opportunity to sell without selling, right? Because the customer's making a decision, they're selling themselves.
Yep.
And people listening to this are selling themselves on you and me. They haven't met us yet.
Sure.
So if we only build that branch of skill, because we don't need to sell face to face anymore, because we're living 10 years from now.
Sure.
What are the consequences on the values of the humans? Meaning how we actually behave. Maybe we lose the ability to listen. Maybe we lose the ability to socially integrate with people. And what are the consequences? This is my prediction. Freaking small businesses are going to continue to get taken advantage of by third parties. That example, that like, let's say, buy them at a lower multiple because those businesses are stuck at a certain level of leadership and they haven't gotten to the next level. Because so that's something that comes out. It's like, I'm really trying to like, I want to be able to say this in a way that is like understandable, but because I don't have it down yet. I don't think I have it down yet, but like when marketing becomes sales, how do we learn how to become leaders? Because great salespeople, they listen, they ask questions, they diagnose, and they follow up, right? They don't just get the sale really quickly and then get the money and then run. They like work really hard to build a relationship. So there you go. What are your thoughts?
I'll tell you this, man. I think it's worse than what you just said, because you said, what if we, unlearn how to listen, right? Or we don't listen. I think it's worse than that. It's that we're learning to only listen to what's convenient and easy. And that, dude, is a horrible place for people to be. And by the way, I'm excited about it because I believe what you just said last is absolutely true, which is that as we get down the road in business, in a decade, in 15 years, in 20 years, like, dude, we're going to be buying everybody's businesses that didn't listen to the truth. They listened to, I'll give you an example. Last night, I listened to a video clip by somebody that, I wouldn't say that I admired, but I at least looked up to, what they've accomplished. Dude, this clip was such a turnoff. Like such an inappropriate thing to share with their audience. Okay. And I'm like, why would this dude share this? Right. It was something private about him and his wife. Right. Like, and she was part of the clip. It was just like, it was a mess. Right. And I'm like, there's only one reason that they could do this. And that is literally to get more likes, comments, etc. And like, at what point? Because that person's team has to work with them every day. Like, what percentage of your team do you think wants to hear that shit about,
Good point.
You thinking you're so cool? Like, dude, you're not cool, man. Like, the world is always going to be built on values. Like, I don't care how twisted you think it is. Just the twisted stuff is a little bit easier to find now. It's always been there. But like, The real people that are going to build real things and long term last the test of time, they've got to be able to retain people around them. And so
Mm.
when you see leaders that have unbelievable turnover and they don't care about what they say in public and they do things that is a shortcut, dude. Like whether that person realizes it or not, it's like, I'm going to do something that gets me more likes, comments, etc. Oh man, when I say something, outlandish, the comment section blows up. I always say this, like, I've had contractors say this to me, like, man, I wish I could get more views faster. I said, you can act like an idiot, drop the F bomb, do all the things that would turn your customers off. The normal dumb human will consume your content constantly because they enjoy watching people make a fool of themselves. Look
Good
at the
point.
number of views that are on, people falling down a
I
flight of
don't
stairs.
think that actually helps build the actual business. I think that builds a new business, more of like a reality
Yeah, their
TV
ego. It builds
monetization.
the business of their own ego.
I actually said, I think I said something likening this on the Brian Hess show. I liken the influencer to the OnlyFans model. I'm sorry. I believe they're cousins because without something
You're not wrong,
substantive,
dude. It's
like
100%
I
accurate.
think there's some connect. Well, at least I'll say it more clear. If we're talking about the business, because they're an influencer is selling something else, they're like a broker of some other idea, right? But like somebody that actually has decided, like yourself, to start an LLC that's providing products, services to customers in the real world. I do think that what you're saying is spot on, uh, like 1,000,000%, because it's like what you're describing makes me think the person selling their soul to the world and losing the values of their company.
And themselves.
Yeah,
Themselves.
great.
So now imagine what you just said here. Let the listeners think about this one. What happens to you as a leader, as a father, as a husband, as a wife, as a mother, when you don't respect yourself anymore? Because you know you're a fraud. You know that you did that for attention. You know that you sold yourself out literally for likes and comments instead of being yourself. Because you might convince yourself that it's for the right reasons and all that stuff, but over time you lose trust in yourself because you're no longer who you are or were. You're who the audience wants you to be.
Bars you.
So you become OnlyFans because the metrics become what you pursue as opposed to truth. I was listening to a video this morning, and it talked about grace. And it said, we're offered grace because in the Christian faith, because Jesus died for us to have it. And it said this, it's not about the fact that you get grace, but what do you do with it?
Mm.
So, meaning,
Huh.
and I'll read you what I text back to somebody. Have you been changed by grace? When people offer you grace, you don't just get forgiven, you get given the opportunity to be better, to learn something from the grace that's been extended to you. Or else, what's the point of giving it in the first place? Because otherwise, you're just cheating the system by saying, okay, well, it's not that bad because I was given grace. It's the same thing with all these little minute things that people do that don't fit into who they are, that don't fit into the values that they aspire to have, they're doing it for the instantaneous validation. And that's why the comparison of OnlyFans makes a lot of sense, because it's like, I'm going to do this because this is what I need right in the moment. There's no long-term vision of that. And so the good book says, without vision, the people perish. Well, there's no vision in an instantaneous return on whatever result you're trying to get and using the shortcuts to get it. It's all about, I say this about TCS, about Top Contractor School. We do not sell or promote anything that sounds like get rich quick. What we do provide is a playbook and a methodology that is get rich for sure. Might take a decade, might take 5 years, might take 3 years, might take 15. I don't know, because I don't know how fast you're going to learn. But it won't happen if you decide to shortcut the process to catch up with somebody else that you perceive as ahead of you.
I want to just elaborate a little bit on that metaphor, the only because I don't want it to just come off cheeky or like dramatic or something, or even offensive to people that have, like, for whatever reason, ended up in that matrix, But what I'm trying to make the analogy is this: if someone's going to participate in that, let's say the OnlyFans, that is a different business than that would be a business separate, totally separate culturally from, as far as relationships, from the person's actual business. If they're a business person with employees and customers that are buying and selling, or I'm sorry, buying and being serviced and rewarded and given value, because those relationships would be based on the organization's ability to provide those products and services. And there's relationships that person is navigating interpersonally. Okay. The analogy, the reason I think it's a strong analogy is because regardless of one who's listening's view on the morality of the OnlyFans decision, in the same way that someone that's, let's say, pursued the OnlyFans, it would be harder for them if they went back to their family's Thanksgiving. My argument is, even if their family wanted to support their decision, it would be hard for the parents, the grandparents, the siblings, the children, maybe not as much the children, maybe it would be hard for those people psychologically to be okay with the knowledge that their family member was in that position. Like, that's my argument. Okay. It would challenge their spirit. And I think that it should be common sense why, right? I'm making the argument that employees, okay, are the parents, the grandparents, the siblings, the cousins, and the children of that business owner that's caricaturing themselves, that's kind of selling out to the lowest of the low of themselves, that's become that just influencer, that commoditized entertainment, dancing monkey to the, like, and it's going to have a real impact on the actual employees they have, and the actual customers they have, and the actual business partners they have, and the actual relationships they have. I'm trying to make that analogy in that way, that, like, if the OnlyFans model goes home to their Thanksgiving dinner, it's going to change the dynamic of how their family relates to them. Because who would want, if you have to ask yourself that you're listening to this, would you want your child to do that, or to would you want your mother or your father or your grandparent to be in a position of their life where they're selling themselves for other people's kind of sinfulness? And I don't think, like, anyone, well, maybe people might say, yeah, hell yeah, I'm into that. But I just, that's why I think the
My point
analogy.
is, like, listen, values drive everything. And think about it this way.
Let me just finish the thought. I'm sorry, but it's for my own, make sure I make the point. The reason I think it's valuable is, period, there's going to be consequences to the business because we have two separate businesses. So it will confuse the employees, and it will undermine the leadership of the employer if they're not focused on their business, because they have this other business, and they have fans and they have customers, not customers that are fans. That's my point. That's what I'm trying to say. There'll be consequences to the business. I'm not trying to make a moral argument for the listeners. We can do that in another podcast. And I don't want the metaphor to kind of like not land, because people might think I'm trying to go attacking all the OnlyFans people or something.
No, listen,
Maybe I should. Maybe I should do that. I have to like wrestle with that more. But I'm saying that's not my point. It's consequences of the business right
I think the world is driven by values. I just saw a post yesterday by someone that said like you can't use the demons that I enjoy against me. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, right? Because there's
now.
a whole different culture of people that enjoy the darkness. That's not for us to judge at the end of the day, right? Like, whatever position somebody finds themselves in or whatever career they choose, um, it is a values driven, principles driven, moral obligation to themselves, to whatever they believe, right? To their creator that drives, that drives them. And, my pastor said once in a podcast, everybody believes in God. If they don't believe in a higher power, then they just believe that God is in the mirror. And so, it's all connected. But I think that we are greatly influenced in so many ways. And I think the employees, the customers, the business leaders, everybody's being influenced by this technological advancement of humanity. And I don't think that we always realize it. And you said the word, like, sometimes I think people get lost in the matrix and they don't realize they're in it. I work hard every day to utilize the matrix, but also to realize like my values have to be rooted in reality. And I can't utilize the matrix to produce shortcuts in my life that will create instability, because that's what happens.
That's great.
And so, I'm looking to figure out every day how we walk this journey of, we say this in our sales presentations at CPG, at the Payment Group, is that we believe in innovation. We believe in using technology at every twist and turn that we can to increase the customer experience, reduce costs, increase communication. All of that is good while still doing business the old-fashioned way, looking people in the eye, shaking their hand, and doing what we say. And I listened to something last night that said, that old school handshake, firm handshake, looking at another person in the eye and doing what you say will forever be the most important contract that you can write. And to me, I think there's a lot of society that's losing themselves in the lack of that because of technology. And so as we do that, the people that are still desiring that old-fashioned feeling, it doesn't, listen, I know a lot of people that love technology that still want to be treated the old-fashioned way. Like, they want people to do what they say and to be around good people with good values and good, that do what they say they're going to do. And so I think it's going to be easy for leaders to separate themselves if they just don't buy into the matrix. If they just don't buy into, hey, I'm going to say this stupid thing that's going to live on the internet forever just because I'm going to get, 10,000 likes out of it. Like, just what a shame. What a shame that somebody, by the way, this person that I'm talking about has worked their tail off, man. I've watched them do it for a decade. But you can't shortcut your way to the next level. And the next level, this is the other part that I think people don't realize, like, the real next level, like the people at the very top that have done it the old-fashioned way, they don't respect any of that stuff. They want
Yes.
real people that have done the real work, that haven't in any way, shape, or form tried to take a shortcut.
I think that's one of the paradoxes of social is it's like the people that have the culture, like a lot, they're not on it yet. It's still so early. There's a minority. I think you fall into a minority. So like there's still the early adopters. This is all such an early thing that it's like all the righteous aren't yet on the social platforms because of the self-righteous that have flocked to it. So where I'm going with is that there's a minority of righteous on it, but there's a majority, I bet, that are meaning of the good ones out there. How am I defining good? They're coming from a place of that quote, the latter portion about the other people. It's not just that self-centered culture. It's a collaborative, inclusive, open culture of the success they've created in their family life and their business life and their community. And maybe they're not on the social platforms because, well, they don't want to be on them. They don't have like an urge. They were born in a different time. They didn't need it to get, because they were already there. They're already at the finish line. People like me, I'm trying to become someone. So here I am talking to you, all you guys, gals, people. So where I'm going with that, maybe they don't want to get on, they don't want to share what they have to say because, or they haven't thought about it, or they're just not sharing. So I'm saying that's one of the contradictions, I think, is that those that have so much to say aren't yet speaking, and those that have less, maybe, they feel the need to. So anyway, I think that there's a blue ocean when it comes to the social platforms, and I'm not, when I mean that, a lot of opportunity for leadership, because it's still a very early phenomenon. It's a very early thing. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of companies aren't near it and they're functioning fine. But I would bet money, and I don't know the data on it, but that they're still all looking at their phones. Like, that they're still, I get in a pretty heated debate with someone on this, not on the show, but, and it was like, well, the data just isn't showing. It's like, but like, you're on your phone as soon as we get off this thing and you're looking at your Facebook. Like, you might be 90 years old, but like, that's what you're doing.
Yep.
So it's like, we don't have the data yet, maybe, but we're all on the phone.
Oh,
So
dude,
anyway,
what's the average screen time? I mean, it's
we could probably look that up, right? What's the
I'm
average screen
looking at it right now. Adult in the US. 7 hours and 4 minutes
a day?
a day.
Stop. Who's working?
Well, that's total screen time.
In closing, Bry, how do we land the plane, and what's our call to action for our listeners here?
Dude, I think leaders lead, right? And leaders, the best way to lead is how you behave. It's how you show up. It's the level of transparency that you operate with. It's like the constant pursuit of better information, of living better, of being more honest, being more open, being more, and I hate to use the word because it's freaking marketed nonstop, but being more vulnerable with people, like genuinely vulnerable, not like marketing vulnerable, but like real world, this is what I'm going through, and sharing that with people. And like, as you do that, you're going to realize how much you have in common with people and how much those people will be attracted to you by saying, like, this week was really hard. One of the things that I'm trying to share now is like, every time I'm doing something that really sucks, like I get home late at night, or I've been gone for 20
Yeah.
something days in the month of January. I hear so often it said like in a different way, like must be nice, right? And so now it's like the running joke on my Instagram stories, like, yeah, I got home at 10:45 at night after being gone for a week, haven't seen my kids, but 7 days, my wife and kids, but 7 days in the month of January, must be nice. And so the more that you do that, the more that people realize, like, this is not easy. It's not. And by the way, people say anybody can do it. That's not true, man. Not everybody is built for it. That doesn't make you less of a person. It means you're not, maybe it's not for you. Maybe you should be on someone's team who can find you the right seat and treat you well. But I think, for the leaders out there or the entrepreneurs listening to this, it's like how you show up and how you live really matters. And it's got to be the most authentic, real version of you. And the in-person version of your company and you has to match what you put out there. or it will come back to destruction of you, your company, or whatever it is, because at some point you have to own up to the space between who you say you are and who you claim to be.
If you're listening to this, please share this episode out. I'm asking for reviews now. That's funny. Please give us a review. Yeah, I've been asking Brian at the end of the
But only
episode.
if you've listened.
Only if you've yeah. Please leave us a review of the Culture Matters podcast. Follow the real Brian Hess. Subscribe to that, the Brian Hess show. And I'm not supposed to tell them to do too many things at the end, but please leave a review and share the episode. We'll see you next time at the Culture Matters podcast.